Hi, all of my A through E friends. I'm Kris and I'm your Cardvoyant. And today we're starting something completely new for the channel. If you don't know what's going on, there's a video right before this one that explains everything. But very briefly, I've been wanting to do general readings for people for a long time. And I knew, so many people do readings by astrological sign. Well, in all honesty, I know so little about astrology that I felt like doing it that way was, I mean, it's inauthentic in a way because I'm not coming from that place. And I don't know that I'll ever know much about astrology. I do know tarot. So I kept thinking, how can I group this to do instead of doing a mass reading for just like, the world to at least personalize it a little bit. And I finally, not long ago, in kind of a meditative state, thought, oh, names, and specifically first names. So, also very briefly, this is a reading for people whose first names begin with A through E. Now, it's very personal. Names are personal. What we call ourselves, it's personal. So, if, for instance, your your name is Frida, or your name is, we need a different letter. Your name is Wanda, but everybody calls you Bitsy, and you love the name Bitsy, then you're in the right place. You're a B name, right? So it doesn't have to be your given name. It's what you prefer to be called and what people know you as, right? So for people A through E, we're going to be doing a reading for the month of May for you right now. We will continue in groups of 5 letters through all the alphabet for the month of May. So let's get started. I'm using my Rider-Waite deck, very standard deck, the most standard deck. I may use different decks in the future, but I mean, this is a familiar one, and I think it's a good one if you're just sort of like, oh, I stumbled on this weird tarot channel. Know that these cards are the most well-known cards and probably the most widely used tarot cards. So the imagery is going to carry through to many other decks, and it'll be very familiar once you expand your knowledge or interest in tarot. But what I'm simply asking is my guides and sort of the collective guides, whoever is wanting to guide us in this, who feels that they have something that we need to know for the month of May. I'm asking them simply, what do we need to know? What would help us to know, and what would be good to know for the month of May? Again, for people whose first name begin with A through E. Now, when I read, I just read, I get a feeling for how many cards. I don't use traditional spreads. So the number of cards that I use in each reading, and even for each group of letters, may differ. It won't be a ton of cards because, well, you'll see how I read, but I tend to get a lot of information in one card. And if I had like 20 cards, we'd be here all day. Don't want to be here all day. All right, so let me just concentrate for a second. And I may clip out this section if the shuffling gets too long. But I'll get a feeling for what the spread should look like and how many cards. What I felt for my A through E friends today is 5 cards, looking like this: 2 cards on top and 3 cards on the bottom. So these 2 rows, but very often when I have cards on top, they'll have a particular meaning, like grouped together meaning. So let's see what we have. Oof. Okay. Well, it's like in my head, I already kind of know what this is about, and I want to say, it makes me curious if this message is going to carry through or be similar to other groups of letters, because this is a very broad message. And if some specific things come up, of course, I will let you know. Um, I'll kind of explain the cards as I go, and as I do, that's a way to for me to connect and to begin receiving more messages, which come to me in the form of like phrases, images, sometimes references that can be anything from music to books to history to TV, anything. So first of all, you get the Nine of Swords. Now, the Nine of Swords, swords cards in general can be challenging cards. They are the air cards. They're about our mind, how our mind works, like our physical mind, how it works. And you can see here, she's got troubles. Whoa, whoa. I mean, here you can see her sitting up in bed. She's got these nine swords lined up on her wall that sort of represent these things that she's going over and over again in her mind. They're literally keeping her awake at night. And I feel like many of you have this going on. And it's funny because for some of you, it's very big. This is about like political situation, world situation, but it also includes things that some of you are going through at work. And somehow some of it, for some people, may be actually kind of tied to the political situation. So things you're going through at work, sometimes with family, specifically could be children or older children, parents, but this feeling of this like overload of problems, and you find yourself waking up at night. And I know for many of you, especially people who are feeling this on a sort of broad political energy, societal energy kind of thing, you are waking up at night, and people say, "Oh, I'm part of the 3 a.m. club," and it's not like a mass waking up, like, oh, we're waking everybody like this. It's the way that our minds work, and coupled with how the dream state works, that many people will, go to bed, say the same kind of time, 10, 11, 12, and the way that our minds work, and our brains and our souls work, you will have like this kind of intro into sleep phase and maybe early dream phase, and then you wake from it, and you're kind of back to that troubled state the second that you wake up. And this card is like your guides, all of your guides, literally, along with sort of universal energy, which is also guide energy, but the energy of source, which is all of us, acknowledging what so many of us are going through. And this is, of course, a theme in many people's lives, and probably in all of our lives at one time or another. But what they're saying now is there's a collective energy of this, a collective energy of worries for ourselves, for what's happening to us, for what may be happening to our family members, and what's happening to our country, your country. It doesn't have to be the United States, of course, and worldwide, right? What's happening to children? What's happening to women? What's happening to immigrants? I mean, what's happening to the elderly? What's happening to various groups of people, and the environment as well, and many things like that. Again, you've got these nine swords stacked up here, and they are very much talking about these worries, literally nine worries. In some ways, the number nine is sort of illustrative, because we think of, in tarot especially, the 10 cards as kind of fulfillment cards. So here we are at this precipice of what's going to happen, right? What's going to happen. And again, very much talking about the political landscape and society, but also this is happening, kind of with good reason. It all falls together in many of our personal lives, and sometimes our community lives, your church life, your whatever group life as well. So this is the universe acknowledging what all of us are going through. And it gives, the next card is something of a message of hope, although it's a little bit, It is a message of hope. Okay, even within the Nine of Swords, there's a message of hope. You can see the flowers. First of all, she's covered, right? She's got this protection, and these flowers on it, these roses, kind of talk about that blooming that is coming after this kind of trial, like this. It's almost a message of it's okay. We've got you. We've got this. Life can be hard sometime, right? A lot of times, but the universe is always there for you. Your sort of soul energy can help guide you and direct you and comfort you. Your guides certainly will comfort you, support you. They talk about that just in this quilt, right? The ways in which we are protected, comforted, supported. The bed talks about that support. So this next card, the Eight of Cups. Now, Cups cards are the water cards of tarot. They are about feelings. They're about our intuition. When you talk in tarot about connection to the non-physical world and to our souls, this is a water thing, the element of water. We talk about that. When you see water in tarot, there's a message about intuition or connection. And here you see the water here, but just cups in general, since they are the water cards, they talk about feeling and connection. And that connection is to our higher selves, our guides, source, the universe, God, if you'd like to characterize the all that is in that way, and that's fine, of course. Whatever works for you. That connection is vital to our living in this world. And when we cut ourselves off from that connection, and with people who have sometimes very purposefully cut themselves off from that connection, you find a lot of the problems that we're seeing today. You see a rise of violence, thirst for power, greed, cruelty, indifference, exclusion, all of these things that when you sort of cut yourself off from your soul, from the love that is the all that is, they kind of run rampant. And that's what we're seeing. Well, here in this picture, you have these 8 cups. And this is very much a card of moving on, really. It's kind of a bittersweet moving on, but it is a card of change. You can see that in the image because the way that the 8 cups are stacked here, there's the idea that there's a 9th cup that should be here, the missing cup, right? But the thing is, he's got it with him. This person that's leaving this sort of bittersweet goodbye, he's taken that cup, the most important cup, with him, and he's taking it further on his journey. He's going uphill, but that's always a good thing in tarot. It's not like, I have to go uphill. It's this idea of moving forward, moving to a higher place. And honestly, that's what we're all in the process of doing. And if you are personally going through difficult, challenging times, this is part of the message, that always in challenging times, challenging situations, when dealing with challenging people, we have an opportunity to learn, grow, take what we've learned, take the best of what we've gained from that situation and move on. And we're always guided in this effort. We always are sort of blessed in this effort. And of course, this is how we learn in life, right? We have challenges, we meet them in one way or another, and then we move on from them. And hopefully we're sort of like this image. We're moving upward. We're moving up toward love and light. And this is what is happening for many of you on a personal level. And I want to reiterate, for some reason, they're talking again about jobs. They're saying that, like, sometimes a job doesn't serve you. And I know when we have a job, we're working for somebody else, right? But at the same time, a job needs to serve us in some way. And sometimes we extricate ourselves from that situation, but sometimes we're sort of pushed, a little bit. And that has to do with your goals, right? This is your doing. We create our own lives, but we also do so with the help of the universe and your guides. So there may be that kind of play in it. sometimes it feels very much like things are being thrust upon you. And that may be true, but it is always an opportunity for you to learn and grow and maybe, just maybe, move towards something that serves you better. They're talking about the ways in which, if you will stop and kind of take a breath and release like anger, um, and fear, that you can look and see the ways in which, very often, and perhaps most often, the ways in which that situation is not serving you. This isn't reserved to jobs. It can be other kinds of relationships, but they are mentioning jobs specifically here. So perhaps many of you are kind of, or some of you at least, are dealing with this situation, with a job that no longer serves you. And for one reason or another, perhaps totally your own doing, you are moving on from that job or will be moving on from that job. They want you to know that not only your job, but they're saying like all things in life should serve you in one way or another. That's not being greedy. That's not being, just totally self-serving and egotistical. It is the story of life that we are meant to learn, but also enjoy and to laugh and to love and to experience in very positive ways. And if the experiences that you're having in any area of your life or the totality of your life are like completely negative, that is a very big clue that there are things that you should move away from, because this is not meant to be a life of suffering and pain and sacrifice. Yes, it includes those things, but it should never be the totality of our life, right? So in each of these situations, moving on to something better, something that serves you, something that speaks to your heart, something that you love. And even if it's multi-step, like I can't get there right now, but I'm going to take night classes, or I'm going to get this entry level thing and I'll go here, or I know that I can expand my role, or whatever it is, right? As long as it feels like something positive. And you take that ninth cup, whatever you've learned, whatever you love that you want to take with you to this new way of being, this new place, and you move on. They're also talking collectively as society. This is what we're doing, and it's harrowing. It's difficult. It feels at times like the world is falling apart. That's why we have these Nine of Cups moments, maybe many of them, maybe every night. But the process is leading us to this Eight of Cups moment where we have to change, where we need to move on, where we're able to move on to something better. Take what we've learned, take the best of what we have, what we want to preserve and keep close to us, and we move forward in love and light. That's the goal, right? Moving forward toward love and light, and we ascend to this higher place. Now, in the United States especially, but in many areas of the world, this is what we're doing. There's this upheaval, and it's difficult. And there are people who are in power, who are sort of showing us the most difficult aspects of ourselves and of the nation and how it's run, our history, and for good reason, because we cannot build on something that isn't sturdy, that isn't a sturdy foundation. And the sturdiest foundation includes equity and love and joy and happiness and serving each other. And so inclusion, right? And this not necessarily been the biggest part of the United States. And we are moving toward that because it's something that we yearn for. The universe yearns for us to have, and that is necessary for us to address before we can sort of rise, just like in this image, right? Take the best with us and ascend toward love and light to a sort of new way of being. So it's a difficult process, but a beautiful and quite necessary process that we're going through right now. We can see that because look what it leads us to, the Sun card, which is a major arcana card. Now, in the 78 card deck of tarot cards, there are 22, only 22 major arcana cards. They're all numbered and named. The name kind of talks about the imagery on the card and what it's about. The rest of the cards are minor arcana cards, and they are the suit cards, swords, wands, pentacles, and cups. So we've got two major arcana cards. They bookend this middle card, which is a lovely card, kind of similar, like the next step after the Eight of Cups. But the Sun card, I mean, this is a promise. This is the promise that they're giving us, and they're giving it to you, A through E people, in your individual struggles, in your individual changes, in your individual lives. They want you to know that the process, it's not really, I mean, it is trust the process, of course, but it's also like be involved in the process. Like take control where you can and move towards the things that you want. What's important to you in your life. And if you haven't taken that time to, and I'm sure most of you have, but to really understand what it is you want in your life, big picture, small picture, it is worthwhile and I would say necessary to do that in order to move toward those things, right? You have to know what you want to move toward. What waits at the end of that process, all this struggle, is the Sun card. And the Sun card is so joyous. I mean, look at it. It's the sun. The child kind of represents that pure intention, like these pure intention things that you want. And the things that are pure are the things that are important to you. I mean, very obviously, it's not harming others or anything like that. But it doesn't matter what other people think. It doesn't matter really what other people want for you. It's what you want, what your heart and soul want. If you have wanted your entire life to garden, to be a gardener, to create beautiful landscapes, but you are, you're an accountant, or everybody, I'm in the family business. The universe wants you to have that. Your soul wants you, your higher self wants you to have that. And if it's what you want, then it's not only like permission to move toward that, but it's like necessary. It's necessary for happiness and fulfillment and joy to move toward that in your life. So it kind of like this Sun card like wants to give you permission to do that, and that is pure intention. This has to do with the whole job situation I was talking about. It has to do with relationships that aren't beneficial to you, or that no longer serve you, or perhaps that never served you, right? This Sun card is talking about the joy that comes from pure intention and following your heart. And the horse is the same thing, that white horse. Of course, that's pure intention. That's a clean slate, joy. The sun is this growth. The sunflowers represent this cycle, right? This new birth. But you know how sunflowers are. They drop a million seeds. Other things grow. That's the story of life. So if you're in a cycle where something is ending, it's okay. That is the story of life. Examine what's happening. Examine where you want to go from here. What you are creating in your life, even if this feels very painful, what it allows you to create in your life, the challenges that you can rise to and learn from and move on from in a way that is beautiful and beneficial, and it inspires and talks about growth, right? Growth toward love and light. The red banner here talks about passion. That's what we care about, what we really want in life. And this is so urging you to say, with this card, he's got the red cloak, right? He's covered in this passion for what he really wants. And this card is like the fulfillment of that. Like, I've done that, and here I am waving the banner of who I am, what speaks to my heart, and how I respond to those words. And it's a beautiful card of like joy and love and light and promise. And this is that promise to us as a country, to us as society, to us in our families, our communities, um, in our personal lives, that this is what lies beyond the challenges when we, especially when, maybe only when, in the biggest sense, only when, right? We can have many things that are positive, but in this biggest sense, when we truly listen to our hearts and move towards those things that speak to us, that we care about, that are our goals, that are filled with love and light, they can't help but lead to this card, the Sun card. I'm going to talk just really briefly about this last card, the High Priestess card, because when I have a last card like this, especially in kind of pyramid shape, where it's like we have these two cards that kind of talk about the situation, here's a little advice and information. I always call this last card my cornerstone card, right? It supports the rest of the cards, and it certainly supports the reading, talking about like moving forward. In the middle of this, and it's another major arcana card. It's the number 2 card. There's a 0 card, that's the Fool card, so it can kind of be the beginning or the end of the major arcana. There's a number 1 card, which is the Magician card, and the Magician holds all sort of the tools of the tarot. But then we come to these connectivity cards, and the High Priestess comes next, right? Not the High Priest. There isn't actually a card called the High Priest, but there's one that represents the High Priest. Not the Emperor or the Empress. It's the High Priestess. Actually, the Empress comes before the Emperor. I mean, we have these female energy, divine kind of female energy cards. We'll talk about that when I get to it, but I just want to mention these two major arcana cards again. But let's talk about this number 3 card, 3 of Pentacles. Now, Pentacles cards are very often about money, very often about property, very often about like consumer goods of all kinds, because they are the Earth cards. So they talk about those kinds of things, but in general, they talk about Earth life, physical existence. Here, I kind of love this card. It's about building something. And here you have these sort of 3 phases of the building, or these 3 energies involved in the building. You have the builder here, who's actually doing the work. You have the architect who's created these plans. And you have this monk, because they're building a church, for whom it is being built, the overall seer. In a very real sense, all 3 of these individuals represent you. With your soul self, you are the builder of your life. You do create your own reality. And I'm not just talking about like I'm going through my day-to-day life and, of course, what I do is what happens, for the most part. But in creating your own life, I'm talking about like physical creation of your own life, that this idea that thoughts are things, the idea of manifestation, which isn't a word that I use a lot because, to too many, I think too often it sounds like magical. And this isn't about magic. It's about sort of the truth of the universe and the work that we put forward in this life. So this can represent all of us. I will say that it can also represent like the 2 things, like the architect and the builder, us, and this monk, the overall things, kind of the universe, the support that we have from the universe. And that often comes in the form of our guides and our loved ones in the non-physical world. So what are you building? So what are you building? What are we building, right? This is something that we've had to come are coming very much to terms with in this country, but all over the world in this human society at this point in our evolution, but very much in our own lives. And especially for those of you, I'm going back, I'm going back to jobs again, but especially for those of you who are being sort of forced into a change or who very much want to make a career change, or something has happened and now you're wondering, is this the time to make a career change? For those of you who are worrying about these kinds of things, they want you to know that they want you to see this as difficult as it may be. And I don't want to discount that, because these are difficult. These kinds of transitions are extremely difficult, and depending on what the circumstances are, people involved, it can make it even more difficult. But as difficult as it may be, it's also an opportunity, and it's certainly an opportunity for you to recognize your soul and to say to yourself, kind of once and for all, hopefully, but of course she's come up again and again and again, but to say, dang, this is my life. This is my life. How do I want to live it? What do I want to do with it? What things do I love? What do I want to achieve? Where are you in this equation of your day-to-day life? And this may be a time to that you're coming face to face with that. And they want you to run with that. They want you to realize how supported you are, how loved you are, how much this is an individual endeavor, physical life. Like, we're all here to reach our own goals. Of course, as we learn and grow, it contributes to the learning, the knowledge and growth of the universe. We do that by achieving our own goals, right? Think of yourself as a parent, if you are a parent, or as a teacher, or just having known any children ever. When they achieve something, especially kind of when it's on their own terms, right? Um, my child, he or she, like they wear a fire hat all the time. They just insist on it all the time. And when you see them, and it's kind of funny, or whatever, but if they achieve that goal, it's like, this is what they always wanted to do. And even if you never wanted to be a firefighter yourself, or if you worry about it, or you fear for them economically or physically, you're still you take such joy in the idea that they sort of came, they saw, and they conquered, right? They came, they understood what they wanted, what they needed, and they went for it and they achieved it. And it's like, it's joyous. It's something to celebrate. Well, imagine the exponentially how large that feeling is universally when we as a society do that, but even as we individually in this very challenging and difficult physical lifetime do that, right? When we do a lot of kind of soul searching and getting in touch with ourselves and thinking about what we truly want. And then we decisively move toward it. And that doesn't mean it changes overnight necessarily, but there is a momentum and a joy behind the doing, the trying, the growing, even if it takes many years, right? And hopefully, I'm not saying it will. It's for many people, it is a matter of sort of flipping that switch. And that may be in your case, especially if you're like, you know what, I'm just going to apply for that job. Maybe I'm a little bit overqualified or underqualified, but I'm just going to go for it, right? So that kind of energy, it's momentum, and it's backed so much by the love of the universe, which is the basis of the universe, okay? And you get this card, we get this card, my A through E friends get this card, because it's talking about your growth and your building and examining what you're building and understanding that many of the challenges that you face this month. I think they're giving this, first of all, it's the first reading, so we're getting those big pictures, but there's also something connected with the energy of springtime leading into summer, that there really is an energy of rebirth and regrowth at this time, and it's kind of a lovely thing, and they're timing it with that. This is an important and They want us to see the ways in which energy ties together. It's kind of like this with the Nine of Cups, where you're supported, even, and these things, it helps you learn these things. They're saying that this annual opportunity for rebirth has an actual energy to it that can influence us as we try and do the same thing. So that's very much why um, they're giving this to you for May. They're pointing out, like, it has been pouring here today. It has just been pouring. And as you can see, I'm in my RV right now. And I'm going to be going to Arizona to visit my daughter soon. So it's, yay, happy. But it's been pouring here where I am at. And it's the end of April and we're all ready for this to end. But there is a real truth. They're saying that April showers bring May flowers. Think of it like this, right? Think of it, the ways that we're going through things, but there's this promise of rebirth, growth, beauty. That's why you get the High Priestess card. This High Priestess is so connected. You can see it in everything, in her crown that talks about, like, the earth and the infinite. She's holding the scroll that says, like, Torah, or it could be part of tarot, and the cross, and these two pillars that have this sort of beginning and end imagery, the black and the white, the duality. She's got the moon at her feet. You can see the drape that she wears, the cape that's blue. Remember I talked about water? Well, this mimics water. So it's that connection to the eternal, to the intuitive, to the psychic even, but to the non-physical. And then her white, of course, is this purity. The pomegranates and back, this talks about, growth and this sort of planting and then bearing fruit. She's got it all here. This is very indicative of what we would call divine feminine energy. It's just the way that we term it in this society that we live in. It really has nothing to do on the eternal scale with male and female, because that doesn't exist in the soul world. But in the physical world, it does. I mean, because we think of feminine energy as nurturing, as caring. I mean, for much of the history of the world or society or people, it has been the women who have been the main caregivers of children, the nurturers, the people who stand up for mercy and justice and caring. But understand that right now, what's happening, and this is happening in individual lives as well, I have to say, very much in individual lives, but what is happening is we are finding out for ourselves how important this divine feminine energy is. How, if we want to have a just and loving and ascending, right, a learning and growing in positive ways society, this is where it begins. It begins with justice and mercy and caring and love. And for too long, we have focused on what we would call masculine energy. Again, it doesn't necessarily have anything to do with men in the overarching aspect, the eternal aspect, because, again, doesn't exist in the non-physical. But the way in which our society has operated, men often do hold the power, most often do hold the power, and the kind of things that are associated with this more male energy is aggression, power, striving for power, and that can mean money, all kinds of things. Exclusion, right? Because we want to be exclusive here, so we're excluding others, and that kind of energy. Well, in order to make the changes, to grow closer to our connection to the all that is, and also the non-physical world in while we're still in the physical, and that's a big part of this. We have to move closer to this feminine energy beautifully represented here by the high priestess. And that's the cornerstone of this reading. And it's for everyone. It's for everyone, male and female. What we call divine feminine energy is what will save us. And by save us, I mean what will help us be back on track in our personal lives, in our society, in our world, like human species growth. It's moving toward love and light in all its different ways. And that is nurturing, and that is caring, and that is equity, and that is inclusion, and that is support, right? And help in all of these forms, and love, because again, the universe is love. And I know it's hard to think of it that way, because we think sort of love very often as something very ethereal, but it's an actual force, it's an actual energy. And that is what the universe is. And this last card is this first reading in May, but talking about all the specifics to this month that we've talked about. That's what they want to leave us with. That's what your guides, my guides, universal guides want to say to us, is the way that we meet these challenges in our lives, in these very individual ways, and sometimes maybe very small ways. Somebody that you're dealing with at work, or at school, that you just kind of have to figure out a way to meet their challenging personality, or these big things, citywide, statewide, countrywide, organizationally, is to align yourself with love and light. And part of that alignment, a huge part of that alignment, in fact, you can't really do it until you are aligned with loving yourself, the love that's in your heart, and understanding yourselves and what you care about and what you want to move toward. But as a part of that, understanding that you are a part of the all that is. You are a part of the universe, as are we all. So we are all connected, but we all have the strength and support of the universe, which means that you too are love. So it's very important, to love yourself in the same way that you would love universal love, or God, if you want to think of it that way, right? Because you're part of it. It is you. You are it. Love, trust, move forward in love and light toward the things that mean the most to you. Meet the challenges, loving yourself. Like, that's how meeting a challenge in your workplace, or societally, dealing with certain people at home, with family, is to love yourself, because from that love you can understand the connection that you have to everyone. You can give people a little bit of grace, knowing that they too are having human experiences as an eternal being. That might help you, give you perspective, but understand always that you are meant to find fulfillment in your own life. You are meant to have joy in your own life. You are meant to experience the things that you believe or know will bring you joy. So move toward those things, especially at this time of year, when the whole of the world speaks of new beginnings, right? And when you are so invigorated by this energy of change. and of this sort of annual renewal. And I want to say, if you're not in this like hemisphere, it's very much the same, right? You're moving into a sort of a different phase, but it's about the change and the renewal that will come in different ways. Because if it's going to start raining, if it's going to start, uh, like having the snow and the rain and the that sort of renewal, it's also a part of the cycle of growth, of the possibility of new beginnings. And they start foundationally with the planting of the seed, the growth of the seed, the sowing of the seed, right? It's a process. We're all involved in it. Right now, it may feel very Nine of Swords, but we're so encouraged to have this sort of Eight of Cups moment and like decide, take action, trust, ask for help from your guides, meditate, if whatever that means for you. Take a walk outside, um, take your dog, your animal friend out for a walk, listen to music that touches your heart and puts you in touch with your heart. Sit in quiet. It doesn't have to be formal. Do yoga if you love that kind of thing. Even exercise can sort of bring you to that state where you're out of your head and you're connected more to your soul. And that's all it takes. Ask for guidance in that state. Ask for help from your guides in dreams or in whatever way they can. Look for signs, ask for signs. The whole universe is here to help you and support you, as is your soul, your higher self, right? And that's what this entire reading is about. So, May, boy, what an opportunity, and difficult times, but we can meet the challenges and we can come out to the beautiful sun. So there you have it. That's your first A and E, or A through E reading. We'll be back again next month. If you have any questions or anything, go ahead and put them in the comments, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.